My girlfriend said, "I'd rather die than marry you." I replied, "Just saving you from that fate." Then I finished my drink, walked out of the bar without a scene, quietly planned my exit, and I just watched as losing me turned into the first domino in the collapse of her curated life. You are listening to Reddit Tales. This story is about a man whose girlfriend laughed and said, "God, I hope never. I would rather die than marry him," when her friends joked about a proposal. As you listen, ask yourself what you would have done in his place. "God, I hope never. I would rather die than marry him." She said it after her friend jokingly asked when I was finally going to propose. I smiled, finished my drink, and left the bar. An hour later, she called with her voice shaking, wanting to know why I walked out. I said, "Just saving you from a fate worse than death," and hung up. The bar was all polished concrete and neon strips, cocktails with names like Smoked Regret and prices that made my practical side twitch. I am more of a beer and quiet corner kind of guy, but Chloe loved this place and her friends Maya and Jenna lived for it. So there I was on a Thursday night playing my part. My part was simple: boyfriend, driver, wallet, listener. I held a beer brown glass, solid and plain in a forest of delicate glasses full of colored foam. Chloe was in full performance mode, telling a story about her disastrous work presentation. Her hands sliced through the air, her laugh sharp and bright. "And then he had the audacity to ask for my sources," she said, rolling her eyes, as if the data visualization was not intuitive enough. Maya and Jenna nodded like backup singers. "Total power play," Maya said, lifting her violet drink. "Classic mid-manager insecurity," Jenna added. Chloe's hand found my forearm, nails painted a shade she called Boss Red. Her grip tightened just enough to remind me I had a line. "Leo gets it, do you not, babe? You know how it is with those tech bro dinosaurs." All three looked at me. My role required a response. "Sounds frustrating," I said, giving her arm a small pat. It was the right line for the scene. She smiled, squeezed my arm, and turned back to her drink, a frothy pink thing she had ordered because the name sounded iconic. I went back to my beer. I had already heard this story once at home over takeout. There I had listened, validated her feelings, and suggested a calm way to handle the manager next time. That advice did not make the bar performance. Here, the story was about how unfair the world was, not about fixing anything. This was our pattern. I held the weight. She held the spotlight. For 2 years, I had been the steady ground under her whirlwind. When she was laid off 8 months earlier, I covered the rent, cooked, and pulled her back from 100 different panic spirals. I celebrated her new job like it was my own. We picked this bar to celebrate her first paycheck. Our spot, she had called it. Looking at her under the neon glow, I still felt a kind of affection, but it was worn at the edges by a tiredness I could not fully name. She was beautiful, driven, and loud with life. I was the guy who made sure that life did not burn our world down. The conversation drifted to Jenna's dating app disasters. Chloe leaned into me, loud enough for the table to hear. "I am so lucky I do not have to deal with that anymore." "Right, baby?" She kissed my cheek over the top and theatrical. I smiled on cue. Another round showed up. I did not order another beer. I was driving. I watched them, 3 bright birds fluttering against the glass of their own reflections. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister asking if I wanted to help her rebuild the carburetor on her old Civic this weekend. A small, real warmth opened in my chest. "Yes," I typed. "Absolutely." "Oh, who is that?" Chloe sang and reached for my phone. I pulled it away out of habit. "Just my sister. Garage plans." She made a face. "You and that greasy garage," she said, but she was smiling. It was part of our usual script. She would mock my motorcycle projects. I would pretend to be offended. She would call me her handyman. We both knew our lines. A lot of people only realize they have been cast in a role when the script finally stops feeling like theirs. Maya, on her third smoked regret, planted her elbows on the table. Her eyes drifted between us, hazy and full of some grand thought. "You know," she said, pointing a wobbly finger at us, "you two are like solid. It is kind of gross." She giggled. Jenna joined her. Chloe leaned into the bit, wrapping her arm around mine. "We are we not?" "No, I am serious," Maya said, her voice rising. The table next to us glanced over. When is it going to happen, Chloe? When is this guy finally going to put a ring on it? You have been dating forever. The question hung there, a clumsy spotlight. Jenna's giggle trailed off. Chloe's arm around mine went stiff. In my head, another moment flashed. 6 months earlier, on a hiking trail, she had slipped on loose gravel. I caught her before she fell. We stood there, heartbeats slamming in our ears. She looked up with mud on her cheek and said, "Do not ever let me go, okay?" I kissed her and meant it. I looked at her now, waiting for the usual blush, the playful "oh stop," the squeeze of my arm that said maybe someday. Instead, Chloe laughed. It was not her usual open laugh. It was thin and sharp, like the first scrape of metal on glass. She let go of my arm, reached for her drink, eyes fixed on the glass, not on any of us. "God," she said, the word landing heavy in the sudden quiet. "I hope never." The neon hummed over our heads. Jenna's smile froze. Maya blinked. Chloe set her glass down with a neat little click. She leaned forward, lowering her voice into a stage whisper that still carried across the table. "He is safe. A total sweetheart. But marry him." She let out a quick breath, pure dismissal. "I would rather die than be trapped in that boring little life." The words hit like subtitles in a film I realized I had been watching for years without understanding the language. Boring little life. In my mind, I saw our apartment, the one I painted while she was at a yoga retreat. The planter box I built on the balcony because she said she wanted fresh herbs. The couch where we had spent 100 rainy Sundays. I saw myself working late to cover bills, booking restaurant reservations, driving her home after nights just like this. "Chloe," Jenna hissed, a warning, but Chloe kept going. The cocktail and the attention fueled her. She finally looked at me, no guilt in her eyes, only a kind of amused challenge, like she had just told a dark joke and was waiting for me to laugh. "I mean, think about it," she said, holding my gaze. The nice little house, the nice little yard, watching him tinker with that greasy bike every weekend for the rest of my life. She shuddered, a full body shake. I would suffocate. Literally suffocate. Some sentences cannot be pulled back, no matter how many times you try to call them a joke later. The world did not slow down. It sharpened. The hum of the neon roared. The condensation on my beer became tiny, perfect beads of water. I could smell her expensive citrus perfume over the fried food and spilled alcohol. I remembered her crying in our kitchen after her layoff, asking what she would do without my calm. I remembered her raising a glass in this same bar and calling me her rock. I remembered her curled against me on that so-called boring couch, whispering that this was all she would ever need. Looking at her now, I saw it all for what it was. Not a shared life, a performance, and I had been the quiet stagehand behind the scenes. The fondness I felt earlier vanished. In its place was a clear, cold emptiness that felt almost peaceful. Maya looked like she might be sick. Jenna studied the table as if the wood grain could save her. Chloe's smirk flickered when she noticed I was not reacting. No anger, no hurt, just stillness. I was not a wounded boyfriend. I was an observer who had finally understood the data. This was the truth. The first fully honest thing she had ever said about us. My lips curved into a small smile, not bitter, just finished. Her eyes widened. I picked up my half-finished beer, took a long, even drink, and set the empty bottle down with a soft click. Then I stood. The chair did not scrape. My body moved with a kind of unhurried calm I did not know I had. "Leo," she said, confused now. "Where are you going? Do not be so sensitive. It was a joke." The words bounced off the quiet that had opened around me. I pulled my wallet out, took 2 20s and placed them on the table, enough for my beer and more than my share of the cocktails. I did not look at Maya or Jenna. I did not look at Chloe. I walked past the bar, past the laughter, past the hostess who gave me a curious look. The heavy door swung open. Cool night air brushed my face, smelling like wet pavement and city. Behind me, faintly, I heard her voice rising and cracking. "Is he seriously walking out, Leo? Leo." The sound faded under traffic and distant sirens. I did not rush. I walked to my car with a steady pace. The problem was solved. The equation was complete. All that remained were the steps to exit. Sometimes the healthiest confrontation is the one you never give them. The drive home happened in a curtain of light rain. I did not turn on the radio. The bar noise was gone. There was just the low hum of the engine and the soft rhythm of the wipers. My hands on the wheel were steady. My breathing was steady. I felt like a surgeon after finishing a hard, precise operation. Tired, calm, and separate from the mess left behind. I parked in my usual spot. Our usual spot, technically, but the word did not stick. Inside, the apartment wore our routine like a faint scent, her heels by the door, a lipstick-marked glass by the sink, the blanket on her side of the couch. I walked past all of it into the second bedroom, my office. The room she half-jokingly called my man cave with a tone that said she did not respect it. In here, the shelves held my engineering books and motorcycle manuals. The map of a hiking trail we never took. My old desk and my familiar chair. The clarity from the bar had not faded, it had hardened. There was no pain yet. Pain needed connection and loss. What I felt was the absence of a weight I had carried so long I had forgotten it was there. The weight of her performance. The weight of my role in it. I opened my laptop and created a new document. Exit strategy. The plan flowed out in steps. No drama, just logistics. Phase 1. Separate my essentials. Move clothes, toiletries, laptop, and documents into the office that night. Change passwords on financial accounts. Forward email to a new address. Phase 2. Physical move. Search short-term rentals for at least 1 month. Book movers for the small load. List priority items, toolboxes, motorcycle gear, personal books, computer, bike parts. Arrange a storage unit if needed. Phase 3. Communication blackout. Block Chloe on phone and apps. Filter her emails to archive. Notify the landlord in a formal email that I would be leaving the lease due to a breakdown in cohabitation. Offer to help with a replacement tenant or pay a penalty. Phase 4. Clean financial lines. Cancel shared services she used on my card. Remove my card from her rides and food apps. Draft a simple email about shared items. Offer her everything. I would take nothing in place of any future arguments. This was not cold. This was self-respect written out like a checklist. I worked for 2 hours. I booked a furnished studio across town for the next day. I booked movers for 9 in the morning, noting they would only touch things in the office and boxes clearly marked with my name. My phone buzzed on the desk, face down. Again and again, like an insect against glass. I pictured her at the bar or back at Maya's place trying to call. I did not turn it over. At around 1 in the morning, while I was sealing a box of old photos of my family and friends from before Chloe, the phone rang with an unknown number. Some last piece of the old me picked up. "Leo, what was that?" she snapped. "You just left. You embarrassed me." Her anger was sharp, but under it I heard fear. She had expected a scene. She had prepared for tears, a fight, big words, and a half-public apology she could manage. My quiet exit left her onstage alone with her own lines. I looked out the window at the dark city. "Just saving you from a fate worse than death," I said, the same calm tone I had used at the bar, and ended the call. Then I powered the phone off. The silence that followed belonged to me. The next 3 days were simple motion. I slept in the guest bed and woke early. I heard her key in the lock that first evening. I was in the office with the door closed. She walked in, paused outside the office, and knocked. "Leo, we need to talk." Silence. "This is ridiculous. You cannot just hide." A harder knock. Then footsteps away, sharper now. The next morning, while she slept, I left. I met the movers at the curb. In 20 minutes, my bike, my tools, my gear, my books, and my computer were on the truck. I gave the mover the key. "Leave it inside when you are done," I said. I drove to the studio. It was beige, anonymous, and smelled like laundry detergent. There was a small, empty balcony. I put my one suitcase in the corner. It did not feel like home. It felt like a forward base. That was enough. I felt more at peace in its emptiness than I had in our carefully curated apartment. Then the digital flood came. Once I briefly unblocked her to send a legal email about the lease and the shared items, her messages poured in. First came anger. "You are overreacting. It was a joke. My friends think you are being a manipulative jerk. I cannot believe you are doing this after everything I have done for you. You are really going to ghost me. What are you, 12? Then guilt from her friends. Leo, it is Jenna. She did not mean it like that. You know how she gets when she drinks. She loves you. Call her. Another unknown number. Dude, harsh. She is crying. Then concern and the classic pull back. Leo, I am worried about you. This is not like you. Where are you? Please talk to me. We can fix this. I saw the movers. You took your bike. I am scared. Notice how every message centers what they think he owes her, not what she chose to do. I read them with the detached curiosity of someone studying a map of a country he no longer planned to visit. I deleted them and re-blocked the numbers. The only email I answered was from the landlord confirming my notice and my offer to give up my half of the security deposit. Thank you for handling this so promptly and professionally, he wrote. Rare. It is strange how strangers can see your situation more clearly than the people who claim to know you. On Sunday night, eating sushi on the floor of my studio, my oldest friend Paul called. Dude, he said, more serious than usual. Chloe called me sobbing. Said you vanished. She said you had some kind of breakdown over a joke. What was the joke? I asked. He sighed. She said her friends were teasing about you proposing, and she said she would rather die than marry you, but she said it was clearly a joke and you took it out of context. I could see her version. She was the hurt partner. I was unstable. It was not out of context, I said. It was the context for the last 2 years. I just finally heard it. Paul was quiet for a moment. Yeah, he said. Okay, she called me to try to get to you. That is messed up. You good? Need a place to stay? I am good. Better than good, but thank you, he snorted. Forget her then. Come over next weekend. I am rebuilding the porch, beer and power tools. I smiled for real for the first time since I walked out of the bar. I would like that, I said. That was when the vacuum inside me started to fill, not with pain, with air. The first month became a lesson in getting myself back. I joined a moto touring club I had bookmarked for years, but never joined because weekends were our time. I spent a Sunday riding the coast with them, engine roaring under me, wind in my face. The ride felt like physical therapy for my mind. Afterward, we had beers in a parking lot, talking about tires and routes, not drama and gossip. It felt simple and clean. I saw more of my sister, Lisa. We worked on her Civic, hands black with grease, talking about everything and nothing. At one point, she looked at me and said, "You seem lighter," but did not push when I just smiled. At work, I took a project I had turned down before, a 6-month development assignment that meant more travel and responsibility. My boss looked surprised. I thought you were not interested in that path, he said. It was not that I had not been interested. I had just been busy managing the constant emotional weather that came with Chloe. With the storm gone, there was space. In the moto club, I met a woman named Sarah who rode a vintage Triumph. Our first conversation was about finding a decent mechanic. There was no flirting, just shared interest. It felt strange and good to talk without layers. The second month, the news about Chloe started to reach me, like distant weather reports. An email popped up from a name I recognized, one of her old coworkers, Lisa Chun. The subject said, "Checking in." "Leo," she wrote, "I hope it is okay. I am emailing you. I got your address from the old directory. I'm not writing this to speak for Chloe or to ask you anything. I just wanted to say I am sorry for what happened." Maya told me exactly what Chloe said at the bar. I was appalled. She went on to say things had fallen apart for Chloe after I left. Her performance at work tanked. She was distracted, blaming others. She was let go. The lease was ending soon and she could not afford the place. Her friends did not want to live with her because of the drama. The bar story had spread and made her look bad in their wider circle. "I'm not telling you this to get sympathy for her," Lisa wrote, "but because I believe in accountability. You were always decent. What she did was cruel. The consequences are hers." I read it twice. I felt no joy and no pity. Just distance and a quiet respect for Lisa's honesty. "Thank you for your kindness," I replied. "I am doing very well. I hope you are too." Her response was simple. "Good, I am glad." After that, it was like a dam broke. Chloe tried again. First, the nostalgia angle. A text from yet another unknown number with a photo of us at the beach, both sunburned and laughing as I built a sand castle and she draped seaweed around my shoulders like a crown. "Remember this," the message said. "I was so happy. I have never been that happy since. I miss us." I deleted it. The past, to me, was a closed border, then the crisis call. It was late. I was sketching a new bike part and listening to a podcast when the phone rang with another number I did not know. I answered. "Leo, please," she sobbed. "I am going to be evicted. They posted the notice. I lost my job. I have no one. I made a huge mistake. The biggest mistake. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I was scared and stupid. I tried to be cool in front of them. I was so stupid." She gasped for air. "Please say something. I will do anything. Therapy, anything. You are my person. You are my home." I looked at my sketch. Clean lines, clear purpose. "You should call a financial advisor," I said. "Or a social service office. They can help with housing." There was a pause. "What?" "Leo, I do not need that. I need you. I am not a resource," I said quietly and hung up. When someone has treated you like an object for long enough, the most powerful thing you can say is that you are not there to be used. 2 days later, her mother called from a new number. "Leo, sweetie, it is Carol," she said. Her tone was sugar around steel. "We are all so worried. Chloe is a mess. She talks without thinking. You know how she is. You not think you have punished her enough. She has learned her lesson. Be the man we know you are and forgive her. Do not let pride ruin everything you had." It was clear what she meant. A good man forgives and steps back into place. "Mrs. Dawson," I said, calm, "I am being the man I am. That man is not in a relationship with your daughter anymore. Have a good day." I ended the call. Later, another message came from Chloe, stripped of need and full of spite. "Fine. You are just a coward who cannot handle a strong woman speaking her truth. You were always boring and small. I am better off. You did me a favor. Enjoy your sad, empty life." For the first time since that night in the bar, I laughed. Not mean, just quietly amused. It was the final page of a story that no longer belonged to me. I did not reply. I saved it. It was proof of what had always been under the performance. 6 months to the day after I walked out of the bar, I closed on a house. A 1950s ranch on a quiet street with big trees and a detached garage larger than my old studio. The kitchen was old. The floors creaked. The yard was wild. But the bones were solid, and the garage would be a perfect workshop. By any standard, it was the beginning of a nice little house. The phrase no longer sounded small. It sounded like peace. I hired a contractor, an older guy named Ray who liked that I had clear plans and was willing to work. We started with the garage. The smell of sawdust and the sound of saws became their own form of therapy. My big work project went well. I got another promotion and a bonus. The Moto Club became part of my regular life. Sarah and I went on a few rides and had some easy beers. We liked each other, but no one was rushing anything. Everything in my life moved at a pace that felt real. The last loose tie to the old life was the condo. I had paid my half of the lease penalty. Later, the owners decided to sell. The landlord offered me first shot. I ran the numbers. It was a good investment, so I bought it in cash below asking, planning to renovate and sell. To me, it was a property, nothing more. The day the sold sign went up outside the old condo felt like the final period on a long, clumsy chapter. Not a big scene, just a clean line. A couple of days later, while I was loading tools at my house, Lisa called. "Chloe knows you bought the condo," she said. "Someone told her. She is not taking it well. She is telling people you are trying to destroy her. She might try to confront you. I just wanted you to know." "Thank you," I said. "I appreciate the warning." "I am fine. You are a good guy, Leo," she said. "Just be careful. The person she is now is not the person you knew." She paused. "Actually, maybe she is. You just see it clearly now." "I do," I said. The confrontation came 2 days later. I was at the empty condo measuring windows for blinds. I heard a key in the lock, my old key. She had kept it. The door opened and Chloe stood there. The polished woman from the bar was gone. She was thinner now, her face pale without her usual makeup. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She wore leggings and an oversized sweatshirt. She looked both young and very tired. She stood in the doorway, eyes moving over the bare walls, the outline where furniture had been, the echo of what used to be. Her gaze landed on me. "Leo," she said. I let the tape measure roll back into my hand. "Chloe." "I see the sign," she said, voice small. "You really bought it." "It is an investment," I said, neutral. She stepped inside slowly, like someone walking through a museum of their own choices. She looked around. "It is so empty," she said. Then a tear slipped down. "Leo, I meant it when I said I am sorry. I made a huge mistake. I was trying to look cool. I was insecure. I did not mean it. I did not mean I would rather die than marry you. Not really." She took a shaky breath. "You have to believe me. I lost my job. Meyer and Jenna are done with me. My mom is disappointed. I have to move back home. I have nothing. And it is what I deserve. I know that. But you were my person. This was our home and I ruined it." Her performance was different. No smirk, no bravado, just need. But underneath, I could still hear the same center, what she wanted, what I should give. I waited a moment and then answered. "Yes, you did," I said. She flinched. "And you were right," I added. She frowned. "What? You were right," I repeated. "You said you would rather die than be trapped in that life with me. That was the truest thing you ever told me." I took a small step closer, not threatening, just steady. "So I set you free. And by doing that, I set myself free too." She stared at me, words falling apart in her throat. This was not any of the responses she had prepared for, not anger, not forgiveness, just agreement. "Look at me," she whispered. "I am ruined. Our life is gone." She said it like a curse. I glanced around the empty condo, then at the red sold sign visible through the front window. "That life is over," I said. "It was sold. It was a transaction. My new life has no space for you, not even as a memory I hold on to." Her face went pale. That was the real blow, not that I was angry, not that I wanted her to suffer, that I had moved on to a place where she did not matter. "I hope you find what you are looking for, Chloe," I said, "truly, but do not contact me again. This is the last time we will speak." I walked past her to the door. She stayed where she was, like a statue in an empty room. I opened the door. Afternoon sunlight spilled in. "Leo," she said one last time. I did not turn. I stepped outside and closed the door. The lock clicked, soft and final. I walked to my truck, newer now, with a cap on the back and a small decal from the Moto Club on the window. I got in. The smell of coffee from my travel mug and clean upholstery wrapped around me. As I started the engine, I saw her in the rearview mirror, standing at the living room window, hand on the glass, staring at the sold sign and at me leaving again. I did not feel triumph. I did not feel pity. I felt the steady hum of the engine, the warmth of the sun through the windshield, and the quiet peace of a man driving toward a future he built himself. I shifted into drive and pulled away. I did not look back. Lesson 1. When someone tells you they would rather die than share a life with you, believe them the first time, even if they later call it a joke. Lesson 2. Being called safe and boring by someone who chases chaos is not an insult. It just means you want different lives. Lesson 3. You are not a resource, a backup plan, or an emergency exit for someone who disrespects you in public. Lesson 4. You do not owe contact, closure, or comfort to a person who used your stability and mocked it when it suited them. Lesson 5. It is okay to build the calm, steady life someone once laughed at and enjoy it fully without them in it. What would you have done the moment she said she would rather die than marry him? Have you ever realized you were playing a role in someone else's performance instead of living your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments.